And so all these fabulously wealthy people were turning to Jeffrey Epstein down through the years. And then when it became an embarrassment, they said, "We didn't know." Oh my, you're kidding me. I didn't know. And I don't believe one of them. I do not believe one of them. I believe they all knew. I believe that's part of the attraction they had to Epstein. I don't know how deep they took it. But this notion that somehow or other they didn't know what he was up to is in itself unbelievable. Hello again, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this No Kings Wednesday, and here's why. The great Julie Lynn is standing by. We're going to talk about No Kings March, rally, celebration, protest, whatever you want to call it, that's occurring this Saturday, not on a Wednesday. We're recording this on a Wednesday. We'll get into that. I just want to get something off my mind that I just literally read this in the New York Times about an hour or so ago. Julie's not going to be discussing this in any way, shape, or form. She knows nothing about what I'm about to say. And so I always love to do that to guests. I bring them on the show to talk about one thing, and then I talk about something else at the start of the show. Keeps them on their toes. Got to be on your toes, guests, okay? And so this is a story, an extensive investigation in the New York Times about one of my favorite topics, the ongoing saga of Jeffrey Epstein. As anybody who listens to my show knows, I'm fascinated by this topic, what it says about America, what it says about wealth, what it says about politics, what it says about media, celebrity, etc., and so forth. And a shout out right now to Julia Brown, another who brought, without her, I don't even know if we'd have a Jeffrey Epstein saga. She's the intrepid Miami reporter who broke the story, did a major investigation in 2018, I want to say, about how Jeffrey Epstein played the system to get away with a slap on the wrist, if that, for charges from 2008, I guess it was, yeah. And everything's sort of, mushroom from there. This one tells the tale of Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with a gentleman named Leon Black. And in talking to people about it, I realized not a lot of people know who Leon Black is. He's a capitalist. Let's just sum it up by that. Fabulously wealthy, worth, I don't know how many billions of dollars, and put together an organization, an outfit, Apollo Global, excuse me, and was very active in the arts world. Was the chair of the board of the Museum of Modern Art, owns hundreds of famous paintings worth a fortune. He's also kind of a sleazy dude, to put it mildly, and has had many embarrassing run-ins, if you will, regarding women. And he turned to Jeffrey Epstein for advice down through the years. All kinds of advice on taxes, advice on public relations, advice on how to deal with lawsuits from women who are accusing him of assault, etc. I'll just read you this litany of the things he turned to Jeffrey Epstein for down through the years that is in this article. Mr. Epstein suggested ways to obscure millions of dollars that Mr. Black paid to women, as well as to Mr. Epstein himself. He brainstormed about how to avoid taxes on some of the payments. He took credit for diffusing a government audit of a woman to whom Mr. Black had paid millions of dollars. He planned ways to surveil, intimidate, and silence another woman who was threatening to publicly accuse Mr. Black of abuse. He even counseled Mr. Black to separate from his wife after she learned of his infidelity. Mr. Black paid about $20 million to a dozen women, at least some of whom he had sexual relationships with, according to the recently released files and notes taken by the congressional investigators and shared with the Times. Mr. Epstein was involved in figuring out ways to dispense a significant portion of that money. Mr. Epstein summed it up to Mr. Black in a 2017 email. Epstein's job, as he saw it, was partly about, quote, saving you from yourself, end of quote. I'm like, what is it about Jeffrey Epstein that these fantastically wealthy people threw their money at him? And this is like a bigger topic in many ways, and we'll get into No Kings, but it's kind of related to No Kings, Julie Lynn, in this. In some ways, our society, not to get too deep with you, is very poisoned and very corrupt. And it's like we only address that corruption when it pops into our face, like when we can't avoid it. And so all these fabulously wealthy people were turning to Jeffrey Epstein down through the years. And then when it became an embarrassment, they said, "We didn't know." Oh my, you're kidding me. I didn't know. And I don't believe one of them. I do not believe one of them. I believe they all knew. I believe that's part of the attraction they had to Epstein. I don't know how deep they took it, but this notion that somehow or other they didn't know what he was up to is in itself unbelievable. So, okay, I understand, guys. You're attracted to him because he surrounds himself with young women, in some cases, teenagers. I get you're all got a little perversion going there. But why do you turn to him for tax assistance? Okay. You know, you can get an accountant for like, I don't know, a tenth of the price to give you the same advice. I used to say this to property people all the time. Julie Lynn, now you're really hearing me riff. I used to tell these property guys, far wealthier than me, far more successful than me. Why are you hiring Ed Burke to handle your property tax appeal? You know, any kid out of law school, you don't even have to go to law school. Any person who's like logical and has an elementary command of numbers could handle it. I think 3 of my producers that I know that produce me this podcast would be great at property tax appeals. They just, their brain work that way, including the young man who's producing this one right now, producer Chris. Why would you go to Ed Burke or Michael Madigan? Well, and then this one they would real. Well, Ben, you don't understand. And then they would explain when they're done. I'm like, oh my God, it's a form of bribery. You're giving your business to Burke or Madigan, you go to anybody else. By the way, that's like you're hoping to get something back for it. That's how the system works. Everybody looks the other way, and then they get caught, and everybody's like, oh my God, I didn't know. But this Epstein thing is so deep and entangled. A guy like Leon Black goes to Epstein for advice on absolutely everything, all the sleaze stuff, but he's also seeking advice from him on taxes. I forget, the New York Times figured out how much he paid Epstein over the years. I forget how many millions of dollars that he's paid him over there. Some fantastic. Oh, Mr. Black paid Epstein $170 million over 6 years for what Black says were tax and estate planning services. The sum dwarfed what elite law or accounting firms would have charged for similar work, baffling both his Wall Street peers and investigators on Capitol Hill. Fucking twisted stuff, my friends. Very twisted stuff in so many ways.